They were close to him. They actually worshipped the ground he walked on. They called him Bubba. They loved him.
Looking good, family.
Oh, thank you.
Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. So greatly appreciate it. Truly, truly is. Before we get started, let me give you my usual disclaimer that this video is for educational purposes only. Please do not take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Next, if you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so. Really helps me out. I'd really, really appreciate it. Okay, so we are at the final day of the Yaser Saeed trial, the honor killing of Amina Saeed and Sarah Saeed. If you haven't watched days 1 through 5, I'll link them below. Go watch those first. Okay, so before we get into the victim impact statements and the judgment, let's go over key points of the trial and the story. 18-year-old Amina Saeed was the older of the two sisters. She was described as funny, beautiful, smart, sweet, a social butterfly, very outspoken, and she loved the color pink. That was her signature color. She was in advanced placement classes in school, and she had dreams of becoming a doctor.
Yeah, hold it, okay? Does the teacher give you this paper in the school? Why?
Because I was good.
Because what?
I was good.
Oh, okay.
17-year-old Sarah Saeed was described as your typical tomboy, always in jeans and sneakers, very reserved, and always had a smile on her face. Sarah was also in advanced placement classes, and she also had dreams of becoming a doctor. Yaser Saeed was born in Egypt. He came to the United States in 1983, and he became an American citizen on August 19th, 1999. Before Yaser came to America, he had gotten into an argument with one of his co-workers back in Egypt. He got so angry that he went outside and he waited for his co-worker in the parking lot. When his co-worker came out of work, Yaser Saeed ran over him 3 times, killing him, and his father paid a large sum of money to get him out of trouble. So I'm thinking that this is probably what started his belief that he is untouchable. He was very strict with the girls. They were not allowed to date any boys, especially Americans. He was going to take the girls over to Egypt, and he was going to marry them off to basically the highest bidder. And these men were going to be much older than the girls. They were going to be handpicked by Yaser, and they were going to be strangers.
But Gail Gartrell says she heard that when Yaser found out about the boyfriends, he threatened to kill his girls.
And he was waving the gun around, and he said, "I'll take you to Egypt where this is legal."
Where what is legal?
Gartrell says Yaser did take Amina to Egypt for another reason.
Her dad was trying to marry her off to like a 40-year-old man.
She was 16.
She was 16. And Amina told her mother, she said, "I want to come home. I never want to return to Egypt again."
Girls didn't want this. They wanted to pick who they wanted to date. They wanted to pick who they wanted to marry. They wanted to marry who they were in love with. The girl's mother, Patricia, which, if you don't know from the other videos, I am not a fan. Not at all a fan of her. I think she's a liar. I think she's sneaky. I think that she is a huge part of the reason that these girls lost their lives. And I think that she needs to be in a jail cell next to Yaser Saeed. That's just my personal opinion.
Teenage sisters Amina and Sarah Saeed, like so many tragic tales, begins with an improbable love story. Their parents' story 2 decades ago. At the time, their mother, Tissy Owens, lived with her family just outside Dallas, in this apartment complex across from this convenience store that has since shut down. She was only 15 years old, but Tissy took a liking to a man almost twice her age, an Egyptian immigrant, Yaser Saeed, who worked at the store.
When you heard that Tissy was getting married at the age of 15, what did you think?
I wondered why my brother would let his 15-year-old daughter get married.
Joyce Boucher is Tissy's aunt.
But, then I was told, well, he has a lot of money, he has land in Egypt, and it was kind of like she was going to be some kind of little queen or something.
Was any of that true, the land ownership?
No, it wasn't true. He worked at a 7-Eleven.
Mom. Hey, Mom, look over here. Hi, Mom.
Turn it off. Is it on?
Mom, smile. Smile.
It's not on.
I saw that.
Turn on.
Hi, Mom.
Mina,
Yeah?
take it off of me.
Okay.
But Patricia has changed her story multiple times throughout the years and at trial. She has downplayed Yaser's role in the torture regarding Amina and Sarah, as well as downplayed her son Islam's role in the girl's death.
In the fall of 2007, Amina entered her senior year in high school, Sarah her junior. Both had boyfriends on the sly. And according to Maggio and Gartrell, their brother Islam spied on them for their increasingly agitated father.
In 1998, Amina claims that Yaser had SA'd her. Patricia takes Amina to the hospital, and then she takes Amina down to the police station to file a complaint. Shortly after this, Amina would end up recanting her story. And it is heavily believed that the reason Amina took back her story and the reason that Amina said that she was lying is because her mother made her do it.
Nice legs. I got this. Take this blanket from this one in the back.
No!
Go.
No! Get away!
Okay.
No!
The girls told police they were scared of what he might do one day.
Get out! This is illegal. Do I videotape you when you're sleeping?
I don't think that Amina was lying. Patricia filed retaliation charges on Yaser, as well as filing a protective order for the girls. She would end up dropping both charges, though, and bringing the girls back to the home where Yaser was living.
When Amina and Sarah were 8 and 7 years old, Tissy, in court papers, accused Yaser of raping them. Tissy and the girls left, but eventually returned with Tissy saying she made up the charges.
Why do you think, in the end, she went back to him?
I think that she was scared. We didn't have a lot of money to just get up and move somewhere else.
But Amina would not be the only one that would make these claims. As a matter of fact, Patricia's younger sister told their mother that when she would go there to help Patricia babysit her nephew and nieces, that Yaser would do the same thing to her. So, there's that.
And behind closed doors, Tissy's younger sister Connie says she was assaulted by Yaser.
He got up and come in the living room and he grabbed me around my breast and pulled me toward his lap, and I'm like, no, leave me alone. And he said, no, it's okay, and tried it again. And so I went to my aunt's house, and I'm very terrified of what just happened. I'm only, 15, 16 years old. My younger sister, she was in the bathroom, and I asked her, I said, has Yaser ever touched you in a way that, you're not comfortable? And that's when she started crying, and she told me, that yes, he had.
What was the family's reaction?
My mom was horrified. I mean, she was just, you know, please don't tell your dad. He will kill Yaser. You know, I mean, my mom was just, was scared, so it never was reported to the police or anything.
The girls ran away from home in December of 2007, along with their mom, Sarah's boyfriend Eric, and Amina's boyfriend Edgar. They would flee to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Edgar would sign his name to a 2-bedroom apartment for a year-long lease. But just 4 days later, Patricia would force them all to go back to Texas, claiming that she wanted to put flowers on her mother's grave. So this struck everybody as really odd, especially because she stopped speaking to her mother years before her mother passed. But more than that, you're on the run. You weren't on like winter vacation. You were on the run. You're going back to put flowers on a grave? I think your mom would understand. Even if you play devil's advocate and you say maybe she was feeling a lot of guilt from having such a strained relationship with her mother prior to her death. Okay, fine. Go there, put flowers on her grave, and go back to Oklahoma. You had zero right to bring those girls back into that home because you knew what was going to happen to them, and she did not care. She drove those girls to their death. That is my opinion all day, every day, and it will not change. She needs to be in a cell right next to Yaser Saeed and her son.
Her son Islam, the girl's brother, staunchly defends his father on his MySpace page, along with the words, F Americans, all of them. And in public, he's claimed his sisters were by Mexican gangs, and that his father fled out of fear of getting framed for those murders. But Joyce Boucher, his American great aunt, says Islam told her his sisters got what was coming to them.
He kept talking about if the boyfriends had left them alone. He said the girls got what they deserved because they knew the rules.
And her brother-in-law.
Another possibility is that he is right here in Westchester County, New York. Yaser's brother, Yasin, lives here now, and in fact, he's just across the street. The girl's American family claim that Islam, Yaser's son and chief defender, has made several trips here since his sisters were murdered. Are you Yasim Saeed?
That's none of your business. I want you out of this property now.
May I speak with you on camera?
And I hate Fox News, you racist motherfucker. Get the out of this property now. You two motherfucker.
Do you know where your brother is?
You get the out of here.
She gets me so angry. She gets me so mad. But when Patricia takes the stand, her reasoning for bringing the girls back changes. And she says that the reason that she brought the girls back was because the girls wanted to finish school. Okay. Like I said in the other video, if you're dead, you don't need a college, you don't need a high school diploma. And why couldn't they finish school in Tulsa? It's bullshit, in my opinion. She's a liar. She goes on to say that the girls were scared at first about going back to Texas, but after they talked to their father and he reassured them that everything would be fine, the girls were okay with it. That's not true.
I knew the fear and threat was real all the time. I mean, she told us all the time that her dad would kill her.
Finally, in December 2007, their mother, Patricia, decided it was time to take her daughters and leave Saeed. The girls and their mother hid in Oklahoma for a few days. But then on New Year's Eve 2007, Patricia went back to Saeed. Amina begged not to go.
Amina said she was never going back.
But Patricia insisted. On January 1st, 2007, Saeed forced the girls to go with him to dinner alone.
Patricia brings Sarah home on December 1st, 2007. The following day, January 1st, 2008, Patricia begins calling and texting Amina repeatedly from Sarah's phone. Amina fought going back there. Like, she did not want to go. She fought going back there. She ignored her calls. She even called her aunt and asked her aunt what she should do. And her aunt told her to go down, file a restraining order, and get the hell out of there. Amina did not want to go back there. Eventually, Patricia shows up at Edgar's house, which is where Amina was. And she tells Amina, "We have to go, we're running out of time." She pulls Amina out of that house, and she forces Amina to go back to Yaser. They get back to the house, and Yaser claims that he wanted to take the girls out to dinner to have a talk with them to figure out why they ran away and to, you know, smooth everything over with them. Okay. Just a few short hours later, Amina and Sarah would be found shot dead in the taxi cab. Amina would be shot twice, and Sarah would be shot 9 times.
Coroner Amina died almost instantly. Sarah, he shoots in a pattern all around her body, her limbs, to drag out her death. What kind of creature is that? What kind of evil, psychotic devil is that?
Sarah was, even being shot 9 times, Sarah was able to dial 911 and to tell the operator that her father was the one that did this to her.
Hi, Amina. Hi. Did you guys have fun? Yeah, and we're back on our way back home.
Have fun.
You miss Texas? No.
Is this tape even, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Islam didn't take any.
Videotape over there, Amina. Don't. Videotape over.
Yaser claims that while he was driving the girls to dinner, he felt as though he was being followed. So, he drove the girls over to the Loft, which is a gentleman's club. He said he parked there because it is well lit over there. He knows people over there, and there's security cameras over there. Then he says that he was scared that the people that were following him were going to assassinate him. So he left his girls with the cab and he ran into the woods. That's a short version.
You don't need to do that. You look pretty.
This stuff makes me white, so people don't know I'm Arab.
You are white.
It wasn't so much that he knew that she had a boyfriend, but he got where he was taking the phone bill and like calling people, and if a guy answered, he would write beside the number boy.
Okay, turn it off, Dad. Let me tape you. Let me tape you. Are you gonna kill?
He says from there he walked over to the Waffle House, and that's when he found out that there was an accident. And then he later found out what had happened to his girls. But when he left his girls, they were alive and well. And he can't believe that the girls' friends would do this to them. And if you believe that, I have a bridge I can sell you.
Okay, have a good day now.
Should I wake her up? Sarah.
It's just ridiculous. With the help of his family, Yaser was able to evade police for 12 long years. They came close to getting him in 2017, but by the time the FBI was able to secure the warrant and get there, Yaser Saeed had escaped. Islam Saeed, which is Yaser's son, was arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison for helping to hide his fugitive father. Yaser's brother, Hassan Saeed, was sentenced to 12 years in prison for helping to hide his fugitive brother. Okay, let's highlight some of the important points that the prosecution bring up in closing arguments first.
Counsel, co-counsel. Yaser Saeed intentionally and knowingly caused the death of Amina Saeed and Sarah Saeed by shooting with the firearm, a deadly weapon, in the same criminal transaction. That is the charge. It is simple, as is this case. Amina and Sarah Saeed returned home after running away from him. After planning, packing, waiting for him to go to work, getting money, getting a car, having friends, getting a lease, they ran away from him. They lied to their brother to get away from Yaser Saeed. And when they returned home, Amina most certainly unwillingly, she came home that day unwillingly, Yaser Saeed puts them in his borrowed orange cab to go to Denny's or to talk to them. He is the last one to be seen with these girls, and they are found in a cab stand at the Omni Mandalay. Irving police, with dispatch and boots on the ground, worked tirelessly to figure out who this distressed victim was, Sarah Saeed. Officer Bracey went all over Las Colinas trying to find this distressed victim or any suspect or what was going on. They had very little information. And with very little or anything to go on, they do. They get the call that the borrowed orange cab has two people down, Amina and Sarah Saeed, slumped over, dead in that cab. And he is nowhere to be found. And with little or no information, certainly not from him, they figure out who the driver was of the cab, because that makes sense. That is what they are supposed to do. Who was driving this car with these girls in it in this very tight time frame that they figure out. And they figure out who was driving that cab, and they figure out, again, he is nowhere to be found, their father. Irving PD never got this wrong. And you heard that from the defendant's own statement, which was absurd. He is asking you to suspend all common sense, all reality, to believe that story. It was so absurd, it is insulting to the memory of Amina and Sarah Saeed. He left them in that car. He said that they were going to work it out with whoever was following him, these phantom people. He can't figure out who they are. He can't tell you why they were following. He can't tell you why someone would want to hurt him. He can't give you any of that. Ladies and gentlemen, he wouldn't even let these girls go to a movie. He wouldn't let them date. But he's going to walk out of this cab, walk away from it, with two boys he doesn't know, or two people, and let them sort it out. And he's going to leave a gun in that car. He's going to leave a phone in that car. Does that seem reasonable? It is absolutely not reasonable. He went to Waffle House to hang out. He had no plan. He didn't know when he was going to see those girls again. He finds out and he calls it an accident. He vanishes for 12 years. He, Yaser Saeed, doesn't go to their funeral. He had no plan because that's not what happened. It is not logical. It doesn't make any sense. It is absurd.
Next, let's go over some important points that the defense brings up.
I want to talk about the evidence in this case. You heard about the 911 call and this email. You're going to take those back with you, okay? I've gotten more evidence in DW misdemeanor cases than I have in this capital murder case. The investigation, as you heard, is based on this very important 911 call that they say that they believe was made by Sarah Saeed. Throughout the evidence from the medical examiners, you heard that Sarah was shot 9 times. 9 times, ladies and gentlemen. We know Amina was shot 2 times. We don't know how long after being shot that 911 call was made. We have no information as to that. Patricia Owens stated that it was Sarah's voice, so all I can assume is that that young lady made a 911 call after being shot 9 times and bleeding out. The first reliable witness from the state that you heard from was the medical examiner, Dr. Janice Townsend Parchman. She also explained that when a person is dying, that they will continue to experience possibly auditory and visual hallucinations. And that's because the body is in complete shock. She was very clear that hypovolemic shock is uncommon, but that it is not outside the realm of possibility after being shot 9 times. Next, let's talk about the no investigation being completed. I have the list there. I mean, no DNA taken or tested, ladies and gentlemen. No fingerprints. Not from outside the vehicle, not from the inside of the taxi, not even from the magazine found inside of the taxi that you heard these officers saying that they believe was used in the actual offense. We have no ballistics testing, no ballistics done to even determine whether one or more weapons were used. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I mean, this is very, very important. This is investigation 101. We have to understand, is this a father who murdered his children? Is this a robbery that happened in a taxi? Let's not play that robberies don't happen to taxi drivers. That's a common occurrence. That's why you heard Yaser say sometimes when he would work nights, he would take a gun with him for protection. And any taxi driver can talk to you about that. Nobody thought it was important to even get shot residue from any of the individuals involved anywhere in this, like from the beginning to the end of this case. Nobody thought to get shot residue from Patricia, from the 2 boyfriends that were heavily involved in everything that led up allegedly to this situation. Back to surveillance videos. You heard about Irving PD having a fleet of officers broken up, going all across Irving, looking at surrounding areas, businesses, apartment complexes. There's a DART station nearby. None of those individuals saw Yaser Saeed, but also none of those individuals were looking for anyone else. And none of those individuals thought it would be important to go and pull the surveillance videos from the nearby apartment complexes that they went to, from the nearby DART station that was around. If a taxi's driving around possibly with bodies, it's very important to pull surveillance videos from the surrounding areas to see if those vehicles are traveling on those videos, to see if you can tell who's in the car. You know, the shot residue hazard said that it wasn't even important to him. He didn't even take shot residue from the outside or the inside to see if there was residue on the outside of the taxi or on the inside, because he said that wasn't important to him because of the 911 call. Well, that's very important to understand. Were these ladies shot outside of the taxi? Were they shot inside of the taxi? If you don't know the location of the shooting, all of these things, all of these pieces of evidence that you should try and collect are very, very important in a Dumbo side where have been moved.
Looking at State's Exhibit 48, I see some holes by the tire wheel. Yes, ma'am. These are the right back tire, which would be directly behind victim number 2. And there's 3 holes that exit the vehicle. So 3 projectiles pass through there.
Did you find any of those projectiles at the scene?
No.
What does that tell you in your experience as a crime scene investigator?
The shooting did not occur where the car was found. Okay, this is a spent projectile in the doorpost where I said the bullet passed through the seat belt into the doorpost. This is that doorpost where we pulled the trim back and we've located the projectile that did that.
That will be
where I'm labeling the bullet holes. These are the holes where the projectiles pass through beside from victim number 2 through the seat area and then through the car by the wheel well. The picture we saw of the wheel well earlier. This is the inside part of that, and I've labeled them A, B, C, A, B, E, and D on this. D is not a hole. D is an indention.
Okay.
Seat, we pulled the back seat out enough to where we can put the trajectory rods through, and then we can see how the bullet passed through that seat cushion. And so where B is on this side, if you look on the front side, that's B. D is D on the front side, D on this side. So we're able to show how the bullet passed.
For 14 years, the urban police version of events was that Edgar and Eric came into the police station the night of January 1st of 2008 when the bodies were found. Both boyfriends spoke to Detective Shingle, and he took their identifying information. Edgar stated that Amina left his house with Patricia. Edgar explained that he and Eric were sitting at an intersection in Louisville, and they saw the girls and Yaser in a taxi together. They decided to follow the taxi. Edgar had said that Eric called Sarah asking if they were okay, and then they hung up the phone. Edgar stated that they took the exit to 635 to head back to Louisville, and that the taxi looked like it was taking the 114 exit. Edgar had explained to Detective Shingle that they did not know anything had happened that night to the girls, and they were just checking on them to see if they were okay. So now let's go to Edgar Ruiz's version of events up there. Like I said, his version of events actually changed literally 2 weeks before trial. He explains that he and his father were the ones in the vehicle following the taxi that evening. And he and his father were the ones who went to the police station together. He explained that his family was not happy about the marriage and leaving to go to Oklahoma, but that they supported and provided him a vehicle. Supportive parents. He drove the girls and Patricia Owens to Kansas and then Oklahoma. He, Edgar, signed a 1-year lease. 1-year lease in his name and assisted getting furniture and moving furniture into this apartment for them to live in. He explained that after everything was all set up, the girls decided they wanted to go back to Louisville. And he was just kind of shocked by everything, but okay, let's go back. He explained that Amina was forcefully taken by Patricia to go back home. You remember that testimony where Patricia came and pulled Amina back and said, "We got to go home." And when Amina was being pulled away, she told him, "You failed me." After this whole dramatic exchange, he says he was driving with his father to go bail out a family member in Richardson jail, and that his father, who had never seen Yaser, had spotted the taxi with the girls and Yaser driving. They followed them to make sure they were safe, is what he said. And he called Sarah and she said hello a number of times and hung up on him, and he felt that that was a sign of safety. So he and his father decided to just part ways and go off to Richardson jail to go bail out the family member instead of following the love of his life to make sure that she was okay. That's his version of events now. So his alibi witness changed on the eve of trial. After speaking to the prosecutors, we got that information and found out his father now lives in Mexico. His only alibi witness we have now lives in Mexico, is unavailable to come to America for this case. Put that slide up because really Patricia Owens is the lead investigator in this whole case. And that makes me just sick to my stomach when I think about it, because how much money, how much time, how many cases that have been done inappropriately by Irving police. It just breaks my heart, but let me continue. Her statements were the only ones believed by Irving Police Department. Her son Islam was interviewed the same night that she spoke to police, and he was very clear that his father would never do such a thing.
And if you do, I'll get you a lawyer to help you out. Maybe they won't put you on death row, but you can sit in prison and think about what you've done.
And he was very clear in his concern about the relationship that the girls had with the boyfriends and kind of the drama that ensued because of Patricia stirring the pot. But Irving police, they dismissed what Islam said, okay? They actually dismissed everything any member of the Saeed family ever said. Extended family was spoken to. They raised their interest about the concern of the boyfriend situation, but nobody thought that was important, just to investigate, to make sure.
Amina and Sarah were great people. I mean, I think what makes me sad about all of this is that all the people that are here supporting them across the globe, that you guys did not have the opportunity to meet both of them. They both were the bravest girls that I've ever known. Amina protected my son to the very end, and Sarah shot 9 times fighting for her life, managed to dial 911 and to name her executioner, her father, Yaser Abdel Saeed. I mean, I don't know what more evidence they need than that.
Yeah. Patricia's family doesn't even like her, okay? Including her sister, her aunt, her own son Islam. And as you heard from the 2 boyfriends, they weren't really fond of her either. They thought she was kind of weird acting. If they're on the run trying to get away from a dangerous father, she wanted them to drive her around to go visit her family, go see her mother's grave. That I believe Edgar said that was weird since she and her mother didn't even like each other. Nobody likes Patricia. Nobody. And what's weird is she's the only one standing out of all of this. 2 daughters are passed, a husband here, an ex-husband. I haven't seen the divorce papers, so I don't know what she's talking about, the divorce. But her husband here, her son in federal prison.
Family members of the FBI says that's the person who helped hide a North Texas man on the most wanted list for more than a decade and has now pleaded guilty. Islam Saeed pleaded guilty to 3 different charges related to hiding his father, Yaser Saeed, from law enforcement.
And then her brother-in-law, his brother, in federal prison as well. All because she's the lead investigator in this case. 2 sets of families just exploded and are no longer. What I see from Patricia Owens is a woman that has always used her children to manipulate other people. What I've seen is Patricia Owens use the system to manipulate other people. We talked about that prior abuse allegation she made that ended up being dismissed. Like I said, Either she lied to the cops to get it filed or she lied to the cops to get it dismissed. That, I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, is not appropriate. Either way you dice it. It's not appropriate for an individual to behave that way with police and to get away with it and be the lead investigator in this case. She pulled her daughters out of school for the purpose of getting her high school age daughters engaged to their boyfriends. And she also testified that the girls wanted to come back because they were the ones concerned about finishing school. And they said they wanted to come back and finish the year and make sure that Amina graduated.
You know, in their first closing arguments, they're going to get up and they're going to get the last word. So the prosecutor's going to have the final word on all this to come and clean up their case. But when they first got up, they said this is simple, that it's not difficult. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think this is one of the most difficult cases that you can do, that can be presented to a jury. It's been very, very difficult. It's been frustrating to look at what Irving Police Department did, what Louisville Police Department did, what the federal government did. And, you know, they said that it is insulting to the memory of Amina and Sarah. But I would submit to you that the case that they have presented to you, that the quality of work of the Irving Police Department and the quality of work from the Louisville Police Department, the quality of work, the allocation of resources designated by the federal government, that the case that this district attorney's office has presented to you is insulting to the memories of Amina and Sarah. Yaser did not do any of those extraneous offenses. Think about the careers that were made on this case. Almost every single federal agent was promoted to a supervisor position. Hazards living the life down in Mexico right now. Detective Shingle is currently employed as an investigator for this district attorney's office. That man who provided those answers and that level of investigation is now employed by this office full-time as one of their primary investigators. So yeah, they need you to hear what they want it to be. Because careers were built on that call, careers were lost on that call, that 911 caller, the dispatcher. If you reject their narrative, then this case that has been arguably the biggest case that any of these other officers have ever participated in is a lie, built on the same lie, same level of lie as Edgar's lie.
Finally, the state gives one last closing argument before the jury breaks for deliberations.
There's a few things that we need to get straight here. Defense counsel has made this case about race and religion from the jump. I wrote down, we are more worried about the Muslim than the murderers. That came from this side. This whole narrative about it being a cultural issue and the government being racist and chasing after this man because he's Arabic and Muslim came from this side. You never heard those words ever come from out of any one of our mouths.
That's not true.
That's their narrative.
The FBI agent said they made a mistake.
Do you have an objection?
That's not true. They made a mistake and labeled it honor killing.
Thank you.
As stated.
Ladies and gentlemen, the argument of counsel is not evidence. You will recall the testimony and the evidence that came from the witness stand. You may proceed.
As I stated, you never heard it come from my mouth, co-counsel here, co-counsel there, or co-counsel there. They want to create that narrative for you because it's convenient for them. So let me make it clear so that they understand, Yaser Saeed understands, okay? If you intentionally or knowingly cause the death of another in Dallas County, we are coming for you, period. You will be prosecuted, period. It has nothing to do with your race or religion. Something else that we obviously need to go over is right to subpoena power. The defense has every absolute right to call whoever they want to call.
Your Honor, I want to object to flipping the burden. This is again trying to argue that we have some responsibility to prove our case. In this instance, she's trying to tell the jury that we have the right to subpoena whoever we wanted to prove our case. And it's inappropriate, and we would object to flipping the burden, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you will remember that the burden of proof rests on the state throughout the trial and never shifts to the defendant. You may
Thank you,
proceed.
Your Honor. Thank you. That's the law. The burden always rests with the state. As I told you in opening, we greatly accept that responsibility, and we've proven our case. But the law is they have equal subpoena power, just like you heard from Ms. Mitchell and Vordier in jury selection. If they want to go and subpoena records, they can. If they want to bring someone to testify, they can, and they did. The defendant testified. He waived his Fifth Amendment right to testify. That means he was subject to cross-examination by me. That means I get to attack his credibility. So they can sit up here and say all day that we cannot call him a liar, but he is. That didn't make any sense, and you know it. He wants to tell you that he was so scared for his life that he left his girls, the girls who he never let do anything, who he never let out of his sight, left them in the car with his 9mm handgun that he keeps for protection, left his phone. What if he has an emergency? If he's so scared, doesn't he need to call 911? And he runs in the wooded area, telling them to take the cab. The cab is yours. Another interesting piece, do you all remember how the car was found in the Omni cab line with no keys in the ignition? What happened to the keys? Story not matching up. Then he says he walks to the Waffle House. He didn't have a plan, but he just thought that somebody would pick him up. I asked him, where else did you go? He evaded. They want to say he looked you in your eye when he responded to the questions. He never looked you in the eye. He couldn't even answer if he loved his daughters. He told you to review tapes that are not even admitted into evidence. This story that he's concocting, this story of how he thinks these events happened, are not true. Remember, the charge says that we must prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt. They can throw whatever they want up on the wall, see if it sticks. You have to say, is it reasonable? Is it reasonable for you to believe that because the taxi cab wasn't fingerprinted, a taxi cab that Yaser Saeed borrowed, a taxi cab that previously belonged to Jahid Tafal, a taxi cab that has many people going in and out of it, that is it reasonable because it wasn't fingerprinted, he's not guilty? That's what they want you to believe? They want you to believe that Edgar and Eric committed this crime? The two boyfriends that were willing to drop out of school, that were willing to defy their parents, that were willing to start new with Amina and Sarah to help them, to help the girlfriends that they loved, that they committed these murders and not the abusive father? Is that reasonable for you to believe? That's the test. That's the standard. Not just anything that they throw up at you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, all signs always pointed to Yaser Saeed, period. He was last in possession of the cab with the girls. He admitted to that. 14 years later, he still puts himself at the crime with the girls, last seen with them. He admits that he was going to take them out to go eat. Okay? He admits to having a gun in that car. Patricia and Islam are at home. They said that Yaser had the girls. Why are they the suspects? Why do they need to, what about them leads you to believe it wasn't Yaser? And let's just remember who all has made themselves available 14 years after the fact to come in here and testify. Who is available? Edgar, Eric, Patricia? Who has been in hiding for 12 years because of harsh media coverage? Who never showed up at the funeral, never said this is my side of the story. Yaser Saeed. All signs always pointed to Yaser Saeed. And we have an eyewitness to the crime. Sarah Saeed tells you who her killer is.
What's going on, man? I'm dying. Okay, let me check through your police. I'm gonna get some parts on my line. Okay, hold on one second, okay? Oh my God.
Oh my God, not again. Stop it, stop it. My dad just shot me. That's your eyewitness right there. She's telling you. She's screaming out from the grave right now. He's here, he did it. Which horse is the defense gonna ride? Is it auditory or visual hallucinations, or is it not Sarah? Because I can't keep up. They need to decide. 1 minute,
Objection, Your Honor, flipping the burden. It is not our job. It is the jury's determination of what is credible. But she keeps trying to say that it's our job to prove this, prove that, and it is inappropriate closing argument, Your Honor.
The jury will remember the evidence and the testimony in this case. Argument of counsel is not evidence, and the burden of proof remains on the state throughout the trial.
Thank you, Your Honor. Once again, the defense does not have to prove anything, but believe me, if they make any arguments, if they put somebody on the stand, it must be credible. You have to gauge that credibility just as you would our witnesses. And you've heard evidence from this side, an argument from this side, that Sarah was having auditory and visual hallucinations, and now you're hearing it's not Sarah. That's what you've heard. We set you up a very tight timeline. Ms. Hawkins came and testified. You didn't hear from 100 emails from Ms. Hawkins. You heard from one because it's relevant to the timeline. The girls ran on December 25th. December 21st, Amina tells you why she's running, tells you why she's so scared, right? And State's Exhibit 7. My dad began checking phone records, and he took my sister to the room. And he specifically threatened to hurt her very badly if she didn't tell me what was going on. When we were younger, he used to do things, and he's starting to hinting at doing them again. Look, I could go on forever. He has simply made our lives a nightmare. He's one man, not God. Someone should be able to stop him. He can't torment us this way. He shouldn't. Anyways, we are running away. Hopefully before the break ends. I know that he will search till he finds us. And he will, without any drama or doubt, kill us. I am worried for my mother. But she would tell him out of fear. We can't bring her, and I can only hope she doesn't get hurt. We love you, Mrs. Hopkins. That tells you the story right there about that dysfunctional home. They want to talk about Patricia Owens, folks? You don't have to agree with the way Patricia Owens handled things, but there are a few things that you do know about that dynamic of that household. You do know that Yaser Saeed was 29 years old when he married a 15-year-old girl, and that he had 3 children with her by the time she was 18 or 19, practically raising her. that he manipulated and controlled that household to where she did exactly what he wanted her to do. She left, she tried to be protective, but he knew that he could get her to always come back. And she did. You hear from this letter that the girls know that she can be manipulated. But as Edgar testified, he said, take your mother with you. And they did. And Yaser called, and he called, and he called like he always had done in the past. He told her he would be better. He told her things would change. And she believed him. And they came home. That's all before you. So the defense wants to say we have one video and one email. There's over 250 pieces of evidence that's been admitted for you during this 4.5-day trial of testimony. We brought you almost 30 witnesses. Witnesses that I will say are retired. So yes, they may be in Mexico, as defense counsel stated. They're retired and they came in here to tell you the story because it's that important to them. It's that important to bring all those officers. It's that important for you to know the truth of what happened to Sarah and Amina Saeed. All signs point to Yaser Saeed.
Subpoenaed to be here by the state.
Do you have an objection,
That
Mr.
is an
Lawler?
objection.
Your objection's overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. All signs point to Yaser Saeed. No one else. No one else. The defendant is not in control. I stated in my opening that he is centered, his life is centered on having control. He controlled his household. You know he controlled Patricia, and you know he controlled these girls, Amina and Sarah Saeed. He controlled everything about his household. And when things were getting bad, when his behavior was escalating, he threatened Amina with a gun, these girls were on the run because they didn't want to be controlled. They wanted to have their own lives. And he saw that he lost that control. He was not going to be able to deal with that. He was not going to be able to deal with that. So he took their lives. He did it. He's the murderer. No one else. "12 years on the run. 12 years without being apprehended. He controlled that too. Plenty of times he could have came out. The boys showed up at the police station. Yaser Saeed never, ever came out and said his side of the story. That fleeing is consciousness of guilt. He ran because he knew he was guilty. And I asked him during cross-examination, would you have remained hidden today? His response was yes, because he was praying and he was hoping that we would forget, that we would all forget about Amina and Sarah Saeed, that you would forget. That's what he was hoping for. He's been trying to control this whole situation, trying to control him not being convicted of this crime. And guess what? His time is up. Tell him with your verdict, time's up. Find him guilty. I ask you for a swift and quick verdict of guilty. Please, these girls have been waiting 14 years for justice. I ask you to return a verdict of guilty for capital murder.
Thank you, counsel. If the defendant will stand with his attorneys. in the state of Texas versus Yaser Abdel Said, we, the jury, unanimously find the defendant Yaser Said guilty of the offense of capital murder as charged in the indictment. Please raise your hand if that is your verdict. Thank you. The court will find that the verdict is unanimous. Does either side wish to further poll the jury at this time?
No, Your Honor.
State?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. If the defendant will rise with his attorney. Mr. Lawler, Mr. Said Yaser, having been found guilty of the first-degree felony offense of capital murder, is there any legal reason why sentence should not now be imposed?
No legal reason. No reason at all.
Thank you. Mr. Said, is the judgment and decree of this court that you be taken by the Dallas Sheriff and handed over to the Institutional Division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, where you shall serve life in prison without the possibility of parole. Thank you. You can sit down.
After the verdict's read, Patricia goes first and she gives her victim impact statement.
Please be mindful, we're still in a court in front of a judge.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. My name is Patricia Owens. I'm the mother of Amina Said and the mother of Amina Said. Because of the actions that Yaser Said took, I will not get to take Amina and Sarah to get their first prom dress or go to prom. I will not be able to see Amina and Sarah graduate from high school and college. Both girls wanted to be doctors. They were very smart, intelligent, bright, loving, caring, and did not have an enemy in the world except their father, the devil, that killed them. Both girls wanted to be doctors. They loved to help others. I will not get to see Amina and Sarah get married. I will not have grandkids. And I do what other grandmothers get to do, like taking them to the park to feed the ducks and play on the playground, as Amina and Sarah and Islam did when they were younger on a daily basis. Amina and Sarah was caring, loving, bright. I remember when we was on our way to Turner Falls, which we went at least 2 or 3 times a week. A year. Amina said, Amina's words was to her dad, her Bubba, Yaser Said, "You're a devil. You murdered your girls." The day we were on the way to Turner Falls in Oklahoma, Amina told you, "Bubba, I have butterflies in my heart because I'm happy we're going to Turner Falls." Now, Amina and Sarah is at peace. They don't have to worry about you hurting them any longer. You have their blood on your hands. You deserve a lot more than what the judge has gave to you. You deserve to die now, not wait in prison. Not only did you abuse our daughters, you brainwashed our son. Our son is now serving 10 years in the penitentiary because of you. And that mean look that you are glaring at me with, I'm not scared of you anymore. You made me a strong person, but you took my life. You took my family all in one day. You could keep those evil eyes on me as long as you want, but you will never break me down again. Nor will you ever be able to hurt another person. And I'm going to say this. I hope somebody gets their hands on you and hurt you and do everything you ever done to anybody. That's counting the 9 bullets you put in Sarah. 9. And she called 911. Amina, 2 bullets in the heart. Anybody that loves their children would have not put a blood on their hands for the murder of these 2 beautiful girls. Not only did you hurt them, not only did you hurt these 2 girls that you claim that you love, you don't know what love is. I don't even think you know what hate is. You don't know what anything is but to have victims. And God so help me, I will keep Amina and Sarah's picture out there. These girls may not be here alive, but they're always in my heart, always on my mind. After you doing what you did, you have caused not only anger, hatred. I can never forgive somebody like you. I always was scared of you, and you know that. You never treated me like a real person, a wife. I was more of the person that you could take your anger out. Remember when you put the knife to my throat? I do.
There are photographs of Yaser Saeed holding a knife to your throat.
He told me when he did that if I ever loved him or I disobeyed him, this is what I have to look forward to.
At that time, he wasn't really being aggressive or anything. It was just like, it was mainly for fun. Was him doing the picture with the knife.
Early on in the marriage, Tissy showed you some pictures. Can you describe those?
Yaser was dressed up like jihad and had a knife, holding it to Tissy's throat.
As if he was going to behead her?
Yeah, cut her head off.
What did you think?
I thought, you know, what goes on behind closed doors.
Remember when you pointed at me? I do.
Other pictures of you dressed up and holding guns.
It was like a rifle. He forced me to put that stuff on.
That we were like just joking around, taking pictures. Like we wasn't like, he wasn't serious or anything on that.
Remember when you shot the tires out of the car and toward the little travel trailer we lived in Covington? I do. But you know what? I don't have to worry about that anymore. I don't have to worry about that. But there is one thing that I want to tell you. After you took my life away from me, and you know how much I love my children.
Why did you make this decision?
Because Amina had and with Sarah, they only had a few more months of school, and we were scared that it would mess up her credits to, to go to the college that she wanted to go to. So we decided to go and let her go back to school and get in. And then when she graduated, we were going to go back to the apartment that we had rented in Oklahoma.
Can you say that last part again?
After she graduated high school, we were going to move back to Oklahoma.
Okay. But where were you going to live while they were in school?
We in the house in Louisville.
With Yaser?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, at some point, Amina's still not home at this point.
Correct.
Okay. Are you in communication with Amina?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And what are you asking her to do?
To ask her if she was ready to come home.
Okay. And she didn't want to come home?
No. I think because she was going back to the house.
She didn't want to go back to the house?
No, she cannot.
Why did you bring her back to that house, Patricia?
Because she wanted to finish her school.
Okay. You knew she did not want to go home.
I knew she
to
didn't.
Her dad.
Mm-hmm. I knew it.
And you went and got her anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
But why bring Amina home?
So that she can go ahead and finish her schooling.
Ms. Owens, this is a tough question, but Amina knew what could happen to her.
Yes.
Did you comprehend what could happen to her?
A part of me did, a part of me didn't. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
My family was everything. My kids was my world, was my life. I would do anything for them, and you knew that. Even when I had to protect and put Mina in the van when you was chasing her down the road. Do you remember that? Well, I do. Well, I'm going to go on from talking about some of the abuse. But due to you now, I have a major depression disorder. I'm anemia. I have PTSD. Cannot sleep without having medicine, so I don't see your face. Well, that's the best thing. And you know what? You can keep those evil eyes glaring. Just glare away. Because this is going to be the last time that you see me. But it won't be. But it won't be.
Keep your client quiet so the victim the victim's family can say their piece, okay? Thank you.
But I will tell you, I pray on a daily basis that you suffer. That you suffer the pain that Amina went through. That you suffer that Sarah went through. And I just hope that every time you turn around, you have bad dreams. I hope your life is so miserable that you wished you would have just killed yourself. But no, you're too coward to hurt yourself. But you wasn't too coward to put 9 bullets in our baby daughter, Sarah, and 2 bullets in our oldest daughter, Amina. At this time, you are nothing. You are a prisoner. You are a murderer. And the devil. And I am finished.
The girl's Aunt Connie also takes the stand and gives a victim's impact statement.
Hi, my name is Connie Maggio. I'm the aunt of Amina and Sarah. First of all, I would like to thank the jury, the judge, the Dallas FBI, the Irving Police Department, the DA, and most of all, the brave Bedford maintenance man that led the FBI to Yaser Saeed. I am devastated, pissed off, and heartbroken over the loss of my nieces. For years, I waited for the day Amina and Sarah would be able to escape a prison they called home. The day they were legal age to escape a place full of abuse, family secrets, and assault. But that day never came. Yes, sir, you abused, stalked, assaulted Amina and Sarah for years. Then you took their lives. For what? To protect the honor of your family name? There is no honor in killing two unarmed people. I call that being a coward. The only thing you done for your family's name is stain it with Amina and Sarah's blood. Now, yes, sir, it's your turn to get what you gave, a prison to call home. Yes, sir. I hope you live a long time in your new home. I hope the remainder of your life is filled with your worst nightmares. I hope this is your new reality. Now Amina and Sarah can rest in peace. They are no longer your victims.
Both the prosecution and the state speak to the media outside of the courtroom.
I think, well, you all know that we have placed the conviction on appeal to the Fifth Court of Texas, which is right over here in the rain. And my reaction is that when this first happened, I wish the Irving Police Department had done an investigation, which they never did. The FBI never investigated it. Nobody ever got phone records. And unfortunately, I think it's too late to get them now from anybody. So we will never know who actually killed the girls. Now, we are very, very sorry that they were killed. Me and Sarah sound like they were wonderful people. But my client, Yaser Syed, has always told me he never did it. From the very first day I met him when he came to our jail in 2020, and until now, that has not ever changed. So this is a case where there are no witnesses, there's no forensic science to it. There is no even looking. We don't have the chance to look at phone records. There is no confession. So here we are. And unfortunately, the FBI and the Irving Police Department themselves early on labeled this as an honor killing, and that caught the eye of the public. And there have been documentaries galore about this case, and we just don't feel that it's appropriate. It never was about an honor killing. If you're doing an honor killing, why in God's name would you not fess up to it? It makes no sense to me.
What do you make of the dying declaration from Sarah Saeed, who names her father as the...
Well, as the state's expert witnesses said, a person who has been shot like that and is losing oxygen can have auditory and, visual hallucinations. They can be in a mental state such that they will, create things when things are not there. Now, unfortunately, that's all they ever went on was the statement that we heard in court. Thankfully, the jury, in our case, didn't want the doctored, the 911 tape. They didn't want the doctored one. They wanted the pure one, where it's not, no subtitles.
But they
on
still
it.
found him guilty.
They found him guilty, yes, based on the evidence that they heard, and we'll have an appeal on that issue.
Brad, should you have let him testify? Do you think that hurt your case, or do you think it didn't do one thing?
Well, I don't think it did one way or another, actually. Mr. Syed had always said he wanted to testify, so we let him testify. He wanted to, it's his choice. Defendant in the case, in any case, gets a decision of either to testify or not testify, and he wanted to testify.
Mr.
So.
Waller, at the beginning of the trial,
Mhm.
you guys said that if the state didn't call Joseph Moreno, you guys would, and then you ended up not, and I was just wondering why didn't you?
Well, we didn't feel that Justin or Mr. Moreno would help us in the case. The absence of Mr. Moreno we thought hurt the state worse than it did us. So that's why we ended up not calling him. He was here for final argument. He and his mother both.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay?
Could you spell your first and last name, please?
Sure.
Could you spell your first and last name, please?
Yeah, Brad, B-R-A-D, Lawler, L-O-L-L-A-R.
Well, actually, if there are any other questions, I'll just follow up on that quickly. So,
Sure.
Y'all's narrative was that Amina had these two different boyfriends.
Right.
So why wouldn't it help your case to bring Joseph to the stand?
Well, he didn't know about the other guy, and the other guy didn't know about him. We had Joseph was saying that he was getting texts and phone calls from Amina during the time, and he knew her certainly, but Edgar didn't know Joseph, and Joseph didn't know Edgar, so we decided not to call him. All right, well, thank you all.
Okay. Okay. Well, good. As you know, I'm Dallas County District Attorney John Crizo, and I want to, first of all, thank you all for being here. I want to thank the jury and all the law enforcement agencies, starting with the Irving Police Department, FBI, Collin County, and every other agency that assisted in this. We're here, obviously, to offer condolences, continued condolences to this family, but we're also here to see to it that justice was done, which it was. We are thankful for the jury for listening to the evidence, paying attention to it, and finding Mr. Syed guilty of capital murder. As you know, the result of this offense is that he will die in prison, which is our goal for him under these circumstances. It's awful for anybody to kill anyone, but especially your two children. That is certainly the epitome of evil in this man, and we're happy that the verdict has been rendered in this case. So I'll take any questions.
I have a question for Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren.
If she wants to, I don't know.
She does.
Oh,
She does.
the dean says you want to talk.
Okay, sure. How did it feel to finally get this verdict? I mean, you were very passionate in your closing arguments.
Honestly, it's been an honor and privilege to stand up and be an advocate for Sarah and Amina. I've been thinking about them the past 2 weeks, every morning when I wake up, every night when I close my eyes. And so it's very relieving to get the guilty verdict and to finally get justice for these girls.
What about when he testified? Was that a gift to you, or was that an annoyance, or what was it?
Well, as we say up here, it's always, prosecutor's dream to get to cross a defendant. You usually don't get that opportunity. But I think his story unraveled, right? We poked holes in that, and he chose to testify. He waived his Fifth Amendment right, and therefore he was subject to cross-examination.
How would you describe his demeanor during cross-examination, and also today when he was maybe talking during victim impact statements?
I think you guys could see it for yourself if you watch the trial. In cross, he got, a little hostile, aggressive. He was getting upset with the questions. And as you saw throughout the trial, he sometimes seemed a little agitated, but other times he was calm. So I think you guys can judge for yourself from watching the trial.
He was pretty upset when you nailed him down on women having more rights. Does that fit his demeanor? To the way he thinks that he killed his daughters, he was abusive to his wife. He made that statement.
I think from the evidence you can see that he's probably a true narcissist. He believes that he's smarter than everyone else. He believes everyone is inferior to him, especially women. And I think that was evident from the trial. Okay, thank you.
What was it like to finally face him in court, face to face, to see him and say what you said?
It was a relief. I know now that he can't hurt anybody else.
How did you feel when you were up there looking at him eye to eye?
I had to be Sarah's voice. We waited for this day for 14 years. And facing him and telling him, it really made me feel good. It made me feel a lot better knowing that he won't be able to hurt anybody else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mina.
Hi, Dad.
Are you cold?
Freezing. And I hate.
Hi, Bubba.
Hi.
Do you want to see my snowman? See, Amina's is a girl and mine is a boy.
Where is yours?
It's right there.
The other side. I have to go down, and I don't want to go because of snow.
Come down.
Okay, guys, if you're still here, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you so very much. I truly, truly do. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. For Amina and Sarah Saeed, I'm so happy they got justice. I truly, truly am. So just remember them. Keep them in your thoughts. And until next time, guys, stay safe out there.
Stop it.
She lost.
Sarah.
You have to get up close.
Something in your eye.
Why do you have that light on? Don't zoom in too close. Hey, no, not too close.
Hi, Mina.
Hi, Dad.
Are you cold?
Freezing. And I hate this. Okay, have a good day now.
Medicine, يلا go. يلا.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
We gotta go pick up Mom, so this is the next stop.
Go away.
If you've been injured in a car wreck, what do you say, Sarah?
Go away.
Because your lawyer should be Jesse Ferrer.
Principal Office, Dallas, Texas. The 4th annual Pro Cuts Texas World Dirt Track Championship returns to
Hey, what about
Texas
here?
Motor Speedway March
Camera
2nd
needs
and
me.
3rd.
You're a driver. You didn't take pictures.
Nextel Cup driver Ken Schrader will race in the Pro Cuts Super Late Model both nights. Come
أيوة.
Dodge feels the choice that won't quit until the job is done. And the only place to find the Dodge truck you need during Knoxville Truck Month is at your Texas.
الحلاوة دي صار.
I look bad, Bubba. I'm sweaty.
You look pretty.
We gotta continue.
Uh-uh.
We gotta go pick up Tissy.
Longevity. $2,500 to $3,000 cash allowance depending on model. Excludes chassis cab.
Yeah, hold it, okay? Does the teacher give you this paper in the school? Why?
Because I was good.
Because what?
I was good.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Amina. Hi. Did you guys have fun? Yeah, and we're back on our way back home.
Have fun.
You miss Texas? No.
Is this table even, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Islam didn't take any.
Videotape over there, Amina.
Don't.
Videotape over there.